We're here to protect you and the ones that you love. It's a good feeling to know that our efforts aren't going unnoticed.
It actually brought tears to my eyes to know that we have this support.
You're welcome. I must just say you're welcome. It's stressful, but we're not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Bucknell Baseball Through the Decades. I'm Todd Newcomb, and I want to thank our sponsor, Geisinger, for all they've done during the pandemic and all they're doing and continue to do to help the community and the folks in this area and across the country in these ever-changing days. We've enjoyed a series of interviews with our Bucknell baseball alums, and today is a real special one. We're going to cover the late 40s into the 50s of Bucknell baseball. And I'd like to introduce our guest, and then after I introduce the guest, I'll turn it over to Coach Heather and Tyler Riggett, one of our players. Tyler is a sophomore pitcher from Charlotte, North Carolina. And our first guest today is Dick Roush from the class of 1951. Dick lettered in 1949, 1950, and 1951. He was 5-1 with a 2.49 ERA during the 1950 season. And he helped lead the team to the MAC conference title in 1950 and also 1951. He earned 3 varsity letters also as a member of the soccer team at Bucknell and was considered one of the best multi-sport athletes of his time at the university. Dick was elected into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame in 2012. Our next guest is Rich Mcfarlane from the class of 1956. Rich is also a Bucknell parent, has children that graduated in 1982 and also 1987. He lettered in 1954, 1955, and 1956, and he was a team captain for the 1956 season. So, Coach, this is going to be a great session. We're going to get to hear some real good history about Bucknell baseball. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, yeah, thank you, Todd, and thank you guys for jumping on here with us and spending time with us to teach us a little bit more about Bucknell baseball and your experiences. We'll start with you, Dick. Take us back to the beginning and kind of tell us, how you wound up playing baseball at Bucknell.
Well, it was quite an experience. When I went out, I was a walk-on, of course. We didn't have scholarships in those days. I came from a very small high school in Pennsylvania, where we had soccer and baseball only. Anyway, when I went out for the team as a sophomore, we could not play when we were freshmen at that time. At least we had at least 50 kids or more out for baseball. So making the cut initially was a great experience. And fortunately, I was a pitcher, and we were working out in the gymnasium, and Bill Lane was my coach, and he had an assistant from Milton, I can't remember his name, who was assisting with the pitchers. And I found out later that he told Bill Lane that I had some pretty good stuff, and he should keep watching me. Anyway, I made the cut, and I got on the scrub team, and we were playing one day. Rayner was pitching against us. I hit a home run off of him, and that put a feather in my cap. And Bill Lane said, "Could you play any place besides pitching?" He said, "We have a lot of pitchers." I said, "Well, I've played some other places, but I'm really not too good." So he put me out on third base one day, and he was hitting ground balls at me, and they were bouncing off my chest and my shins and everything else. I came off the field. He said, "I think you're a pitcher." I said, "I think you're right." So I got in an inter-squad game, and I did very well, and ended up making the team. And I didn't play very much my sophomore year, but toward the end of the season, I got a couple starts and did well. And from then on, it was a pretty good experience.
That's great. How about you, Rich?
Well, I started playing baseball and played in the first Little League World Series championship game in 1947. Sport.
All right.
We played 3 games in that World Series competition. And I got up 9 times in those 3 games, and I struck out 7. So when I came to Bucknell, I obviously had to wait till my sophomore year to play. Bill Lane was our coach, and I was a catcher. That's where they put the fat guys. I caught every inning of every game for the 3 years that I was eligible. We had a guy that was really a good pitcher, Don Richards. I stood next to at the end of our junior year. Went down to Baltimore for a tryout, he and I stood next to him when the general manager of the Baltimore Orioles then offered Don Richards $35,000 bonus. Back then, if you signed a bonus for over $6,000, they had to put you on the major league roster, and he offered to give him $35,000. He could put on the major league roster that night and pitch against the Yankees. And I'm sitting there, you know, looking for $50 or maybe $100 or something, and I got nothing, obviously. But Bill Lane had told us that he had warned us at the end of this is the end of our junior year. He had told us, he said, crazy because next year we're going to go all the way. Whenever Don Richards pitched, we beat whoever we were playing. And that in the senior year, they put Don into pinch run in the game, and he slid into second base, and he hurt his left leg. And he had not lost a game until then. He had his left-hander, and when he hurt his arm favoring his leg, and wound up losing some games our senior year. That was a real problem. He eventually did sign with the Red Sox for $5,000 bonus. He played 2 games in the minor leagues. One game he had 15 strikeouts. The other game he had one hit for 7 innings, I think it was. And it was a shame he had hurt his arm in their senior year. And about 3 years later, I was down in Maryland, and he called me up from Baltimore and said, come on over, we need a catcher. And the industrial league that he was playing in, and I went over, and they wouldn't let me play because I wasn't on the roster. But he was playing center field. He couldn't throw the ball from center field to second base. His arm was so bad. That was a real shame, because I said he could beat anybody with them pitching. And I claimed to be the brains of the pitching, and he was the brawn.
I like that.
Pardon me?
He had he still holds the strikeout records and all that, and
Okay.
a guy a couple years ago that was starting to get close to him, and they didn't believe the numbers that he put up. But speak to that a little bit. Like, how many did he strike out a game, and what was his best pitch?
His best pitch was controlled. He got a nice curveball and a good fastball, but he could pitch it where he wanted to. Throw it inside corners and high fastballs. He was good.
Did you hear that, Tyler? But it was command.
I heard that. If you don't throw strikes, is what it's about.
That's right. Tyler's a freshman left-hander for us as well, and he just the other day hit 90 miles an hour for the first time. But good for him to hear that. It's all it is still all about command and being able to strike out pitchers and stuff. So, Dick, we'll go back to you. Describe your baseball experience at Bucknell in the 50s. Where was the field? Was there a locker room? Like, where was that? And how did you travel to games and stuff like that?
The field we played on was next to the football field, Christy Mathewson Stadium. It was a good baseball field. We had no dugouts. We sat on benches. We traveled the away games. We went in private cars. Somebody would drive, and the team would go in private vehicles. We didn't have a bus, and we didn't have a van, so that was the way we traveled. Baseball to me was my favorite sport. I think I was a better baseball player than I was a soccer player, but anyway, it was quite an experience. And I will add here that my senior year, record was 5-3. Todd said I was 5-1 my junior year, but I think they lost our stats and our records for my senior year at Bucknell, and it was very difficult for them to determine what I did or what anybody else did that year.
Right. They probably back then didn't have somebody actually in charge of that type of deal, and they've come a long way with that. They travel with us a lot now and stay on top of that stuff pretty good and able to keep track of it. I think they had to do something similar for to figure out how many strikeouts Don Richards actually had and stuff. How about you, Rich? What was it like? Where was the furthest you guys went for a game and stuff?
We went to Syracuse. Went to Penn State, obviously, Gettysburg, Delaware, University of Delaware. I don't remember going further south. It's possible that we did. But, I don't remember.
Right. And the field was there next to the football stadium and stuff as well?
It's the same one that Dick indicated. We played on that field. I caught every inning of every game that we played in my 3 years.
That's unheard of. How are your knees today?
Well, they're both artificial now.
Okay.
They work.
Not surprising. Tyler, why don't you go ahead and ask the next one, and we'll have Rich be the first to answer, and then Dick.
All right. Yeah. Once again, I just want to say thanks for having me on here. It's really interesting to hear all this history, and appreciate hearing all you guys' insight. So my first question for Mr. Roush is, what advice would you give me or any of the players that are in our program today about the college baseball experience at Bucknell?
That's a very good question. I've been told by some of my friends that I bleed Bucknell, and I guess I do, but you gotta, as a pitcher, take your legs, you run, because if your legs give out on you, you're about finished, and you will not be able to pitch complete games and so on. When I was training, I remember my senior year, I was not in very good shape when the season started. I was the opening pitcher that year, and they got hit pretty well. And Bill Wayne came to me and he said, "Roush, you're out of shape. You will run around that track twice every day, and I'm going to stand there and watch you do it." And I did that, and my legs got in shape, and as a result, I turned out to be pretty good that year. And I don't know what else to tell you except I'm proud to be a Bucknellian, and I hope you are too.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Don't worry, I have way too much Bucknell gear. I'm a walking bookstore.
Notice my background.
Oh, you got the bison hanging. I noticed that.
I have 20 pictures of bisons and 170 statuary of different bisons that I've collected. My family's given them to me every time they go somewhere and find a picture or something like that.
I actually have something funny to show you before you give your advice. Hanging in my house is the official like Bucknell Bison sign. I'm gonna flip my camera here, but do you see that hanging on the wall? That's the logo we have outside our dugout.
That's pretty cool. You guys were just alike.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that I did for my 50th reunion was I did that logo that you just showed in a latch hook rug and gave it to Bucknell. But for some reason, it's disappeared. It was in the exercise room. It was a 9x12 rug with the Bucknell logo on it. And we don't know what's happened.
We'll have to work on that. Maybe Chad Mason can help me find it. He's probably got it somewhere. But well, good. Since you guys both played for Bill Lane, any special memories Rick, that you can remember of him being your coach? Dick talked about him making him run all the time. You have any stories like that?
Actually, I was a high school football player as well, and he was also a football coach. And during a spring training football game, he said, "Forget about playing football. You're just going to play baseball."
It sounds like he wasn't afraid to tell the truth.
Yeah, well, Harry Lawrence, the football coach, he wanted me to play a different position than I had ever played, and I didn't want to do that. He wanted me to be an outside linebacker, and I was always the center on offense and a little linebacker. But
right.
Baseball was the only real sport that I ever was an intramural athlete. We did all the intramural stuff.
Sure.
Basketball, my intramural basketball team.
That's great. Dick, how about you? Any memories of Bill Lane that you could share with us?
Yes, Bill Lane was also a soccer coach. He wasn't my coach, but he was coaching soccer when I was a freshman. So I got to know him a little bit. I went down and worked out with the soccer team on occasion. So I knew Bill a little bit. We were playing down at Navy my senior year, and I was pitching, and I think it was the sixth inning. We were ahead 6-1. I was doing, I thought, very well. First guy up got a hit off me, and he comes out and he says, "Dick, I'm going to take you out." And I said, "Why?" Well, he said, "I think you're tired." So anyway, he took me out, and we had a guy by the name of Al Hageline who pitched for Bucknell, and he threw the ball like 100 miles an hour, but he didn't know where it was going. And he walked the bases full, and we ended up winning the game 6-5. And I did get the win, but I was prancing around in the dugout, and I'll never let Bill Lane forget about that one. But Bill was a great personal friend as well as a coach.
That's great. That's great.
I had a lot of respect for Bill in our days.
For sure.
Except for John Richards in the pinch run. That turned out to be a mistake.
Yeah, I bet you he would have liked that one back.
Yes. Sure would
How
have.
about Rich? What was your most memorable experience as part of the Bucknell baseball program?
The good experience or the bad ones?
You could go with either. Probably more good than bad, but.
Well, the one good one was we were playing the University of Delaware at Dallas Green, who went on to pitch for the Phillies, was the University of Delaware's pitcher, and I got a hit off of him in the ninth inning, and we scored 2 runs and beat him 3-2.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was the positive one. And the negative one was that we had taken the van up to Penn State, and there was 8 of us in the van. I was driving, coming home. We stopped at a restaurant or a bar to get some dinner, and because some of the fellows in the van weren't 21, they wouldn't serve us. And on the way out of the restaurant, one of our shortstop at that time went by the kitchen, and he saw the kitchen was open, and he went in and picked up a piece of ham on the back and put it in our car. And about 5 miles down the road, he pulls it out. Says, "Anybody want some ham?" And about 5 miles further down the road, a state policeman pulled us over for stealing this ham, and we all got 30 days probation for stealing the ham. You know, only one of us was guilty, but the rest of us were just there. We didn't know that.
Right.
And I was worried about that was my senior year, and I was worried about Bucknell's going to not graduate year, give you because we had to go to court for over this.
For sure. Wow.
Now the dean of men that called me in and told me, "Don't worry about it. We understand what happened."
It seemed to turn out all right.
The worst thing that happened to us.
That's good. Dick, how about you?
You see some of my
experience.
Well, a couple come to mind. We were down at Delaware. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning, and we were ahead 1-0. And some guy came up and hit one out of the park off of me and tied the game up. And of course, I was heartbroken. The next inning, I hit a home run, and we won the game 2-1.
That's great.
The last game I pitched at Bucknell was against Penn State at Bucknell. We were fortunate enough to win that game 3-1, and it was one of my better pitching experiences the whole time at Bucknell. And of course, I was definitely not a Penn State fan, so in those days we disliked Penn State a lot, and that was one of my finest experiences at Bucknell.
That's something you'll always have. We get to play them, once or twice a year, and it's tough to get a W against those guys. So that's great. You finished with a W against the Nittany Lions there. Tyler, why don't you ask another question?
Yeah, my next question pertains to post-career. And so what advice do you have about networking and finding the right job after Bucknell?
Who are you asking?
Dick, you can go.
Well, after I graduated from Bucknell, I was drafted into the Army, and I played semi-pro baseball when I was in the Army. And I came out in 1953, and I didn't know, my major in college was commerce and finance with an accounting major, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had opportunities to go to work for the government, and because in the Army, I worked for the Army Audit Agency and on temporary duty. So I decided that I might want to go into the insurance business. And a little agency in my hometown came up for sale, and I decided to buy it, which I did. And later on, I bought another agency in Mifflintown, which is where I live now. And my wife work was in the insurance business until I retired. And now my son still has the agency in Mifflintown as I don't know what your major is or what you have any thoughts about.
I'm in the College of Arts and Sciences. I actually have to make the decision this year to pick my major. And I'm leaning towards doing psychology, but I know that I'm going to minor in Spanish.
Well, I don't know anything about Spanish. I don't know anything about psychology either, but I'm sure just the little bit I've known you, I think you'll do very well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Mr.
Rich, anything to add?
Well, I was offered a contract by the Pirates when I graduated. I had to go. They wanted me to go to Hastings, Nebraska, to a rookie league. They were going to pay me $250 a month, and I had driven to Pittsburgh to get this story. And I had driven my mother's car. My mother up there what the offer was, and she said, "Come on home. You can't hit a curveball." So I don't even think about playing baseball. So actually, I went to. I was a biology teacher. I actually did go to medical school for
I might add something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had played 1 year of pro ball and I was making $300 a month. And I had the same experience as Rich. I got married and had a little boy, and my wife says we can't live on $300 a month. So I gave that up, but I did play baseball, sandlot baseball for Mifflintown I quit playing baseball when I was 34 years old, and then took up golf, and wasn't too bad at that either, but the whole experience lasted quite a while.
For sure, for sure.
You always want to stay in the game as long as you can.
Yes, I would tell you to do that.
Why update us?
Well, as I said, I went to medical school for a year, and I didn't have any money, and I was working part-time in the emergency room, and people are coming in on the weekends and all cut up and butchered up. I couldn't take it. The professors got me a job at Franklin and Marshall, working as a teaching assistant. So from there I went on to the University of Maryland, master's degree in biochemistry, and went to work as a teacher. I didn't know anything about stocks and bonds, and I read somewhere that if you wanted to find out about stocks, join an investment club. So I started an investment club among the teachers. School where I was coaching, by the way, football, basketball, and baseball. I was head baseball and head basketball coach, assistant football. And I got so involved in the investment club among teachers that I got a job as, well, my basketball team. I had this fourth year, my basketball team had the same players that I had the year before. The year before we won 8 games. The last year we only won 2 games with the same players. So I figured I better not stick around with athletics. I got a job as a drug and chemical company analyst for an investment banking firm in Philadelphia. In fact, right now, in front of me, I have an investment club that I run in Southwest Philadelphia. We've got 33 members more. I've been in the securities business.
Well, thank you. And one of the things that struck me about both you guys, you've kind of stayed around sports for a long time too, even after your Bucknell career was over. So I think that's great. Obviously, I've done the same, and just love being around the game and appreciate the opportunity to work at a school like Bucknell and be around guys like yourself and obviously the players like Tyler for sure. But what kind of advice could you guys give me and about as the current head coach of the program, the state of the program, how it's grown over the years, that type of stuff? Dick, why don't you go?
Well, I think you've been taught very well. How long did you work with Gino?
8 years I got to learn under him.
Gino and I were sort of buddies because he came from the same town that I live in.
Right.
And I knew him when he was in high school, really, but I really didn't know him that well until after he was a coach at Bucknell. But my advice to you is keep doing what you're doing. Bucknell's baseball program has come a long way since I played. I think our schedule was 25 or 26 games a year, and I don't know how many you play, but I guess 50 or 60. Mm-hmm. And I think your program is great. I don't know what I could tell you, except I think you're doing a great job, and I think you ought to continue doing it.
Well, thank you. And Gene really did a lot of things to grow baseball at Bucknell. The schedule was like to be in full-time baseball and going on spring break trips and things like that. Really running it the first-class way. Rich, how about you? Any?
I would go relate to Bill Lane. I always felt that as the coach, he was very personable to me as a player and to all the other guys. And that, Tyler, you're the pitcher and today and job and you get around a little bit, Tyler, and he comes out and says, "You're okay. You did a decent job." And he was very positive. I think Lane was very positive with each of us players. I'd strike out with the bases loaded and don't worry about it the next years. I think just being positive.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a hard enough game as it is, and a lot of failure, a lot of parts in terms of playing the game, and got to remain positive. It's not always easy as the coach, but definitely will take that to heart. Thank you, Rich. I'll let Tyler ask the last question, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so my last question was, who is a teammate you admired the most throughout your career at Bucknell, and why was that? And we'll start with Mr. Roush.
What was the question?
Who is the teammate you admired the most throughout your career at Bucknell?
Teammate? The teammate?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I guess it was my catcher. Rich ought to like this. Jim DiGiuseppe, who caught my all my senior year, my junior year as well, and we got to know each other very well. I also liked Art Rayner, who was my idol, because he was a great pitcher for Bucknell. But I have to go with my catcher, Jim DiGiuseppe.
That's right. You got to take care of the catchers for sure.
He sure took care of me.
Battery is the most important relationship, right?
Right. Very, very. Well, I roomed with him my senior year, so that helped also. We knew each other pretty well.
Rich, how about you? What teammate?
Don Richards, obviously. was the closest one. I stayed very close with him all these years. His wife actually was a classmate of ours in college. I still talk to her about once every week or so. So he was the best baseball player on us. He was the best player.
What was his nickname? Did they have a nickname for him? Maybe Tilt?
I can't remember one any.
Okay. I thought I'd heard somebody gave him the nickname Tilt because he threw from
Okay, you're right.
a good angle.
Yeah.
All right, well, great. Thank you guys so much for jumping on with us. I really appreciate it. You know, and great to hear the stories, and at Bucknell baseball, is strong today because of guys like yourself who kind of laid the groundwork for us, and just appreciate all your support over the years and everything you do and have done for the program. I'll let Todd wrap it up.
All right, thanks, Coach, and another great session of Bucknell baseball through the decades. And Dick and Rich, thank you both so much for juggling the schedule and making this all work out. And I want to echo Coach's sentiments. Thanks for all that you have done and continue to do for Bucknell baseball and Bucknell athletics in general. I know, Dick, I know you support so many of the programs at Bucknell, and every one of our athletes truly appreciates that. Tyler, again, I want to thank you for joining us today and wish you luck with the spring season. We're keeping our fingers crossed, and we're hoping you're going to be out there on the mound this spring and playing some games. And to everyone at home that tuned in, thanks for doing so. And to everybody else, go Bison.